Thanks very much. So, Andrew.
Okay, thank you very much, James. I think we've got 15 minutes. I've got a large number of slides. I'll go very fast. But if you don't count them, you won't realise there's that many. But generally, I think I've talked a number of times on BIM, but most of the times come up as clients ask me what's in it for them. I think contractors, which I think a number of you are here today, can see advantages, but what's in it for them? So I'm aiming this particularly at a client base of what that's for. So my name's Andrew Price, BAM Design. I oversee the multidisciplinary side of BAM Construct, and I oversee BIM strategy. So for 15 minutes of starting, I'll head straight in. Most of you probably will know what BAM are, but basically there's a number up there. But what we do is we develop, we're going developments, we do our own developments, we do our own design, we do our own construction in 7 regions around the country, particularly FM, which we'll come on to talk about in more detail. Again, similar projects that we've done, Leeds Arena, Cooperative Buildings just been finished, and a lot of King's Cross developments as well as schools, etc. And the Starlight did project in Glasgow, give a flavour. In Building Magazine, we've got a partnership with Autodesk to turbo boost our BIM strategy. We've been doing it for a number of years. We've been doing it since the 1990s on Really Place using Sonata. We took on Revit as a technology in 2000 before Autodesk took that on board, and all our projects have been in Revit since 2000. Benefits we've seen through that, I won't go through in detail, there's too many words in there to read, but generally all through design stage we've seen the benefits of BIM on the number of years we've gone through that. Paul Morale, government, we know has been the drive in the public sector, and that's been the big push since the Egan and Latham reports about talking about how we should all work together in partnerships together. He's been the big push, and by 2016 we should all be 3D BIM compliant and with data drops and data collection digitally on that. Which there's a typical diagram I think we've seen so many times on BIM, what that means in the level 1 and 2, which you can't see, apologies for that. But generally what we talk about is what we're looking at the level 2 plus, and that's generally, we'll come on to talk about in more detail of that. The main drive from the public sector is because 20% cost savings, austerity measures, as we all know, but there's 20% cost savings the government will make on public buildings, and the government have looked at what can be saved within the construction industry, and I'll leave you can read those elements, and I think we all know when we start to look at those, particularly 80% of inputs are identical. We seem to do those, reinvent the wheel every time we look at something. Wasted labour, wasted materials, it goes on, and you can actually see where we can actually make savings without too much trouble. There are challenges along the way. Some people just don't get it. Some people give misinformation about what they should do and what they shouldn't do. And some people talk about it and they actually can't do it, but they try to convince people that they can. This is Paul Morale uses this slide quite a bit, and I've seen other slides, but basically I've added a little bit, because what he talks about is the red line is basically, to give a shit, basically when you come out of university or come out of college and want to learn, you're very keen, you really want to get on and you're enthusiastic. After about 20, you really don't care, and it dwindles off as you go through age. BIM, I think, has reinvigorated everybody. They actually say, well, actually, middle, senior management actually start when they get it, they actually enthuse, and it actually reinvigorates the whole industry. So that actually, give a shit, moves, I think, quite a bit over. And I think, for the likes of ourselves, actually, there's a lot to learn and a lot to gain from it. And again, can't quite see that, but it's a slide where senior management basically done things on the lower levels. That BIM, that shouldn't work, should work together as a whole. Communication is very important as part of BIM, and as we know in the industry, if we get communication wrong, the whole projects can go horribly wrong as well. And at the moment, even still, the project team are in silos, they don't necessarily talk to each other, and they need to work together. I'll let you decide who's who in the project team. As I say, there's a lot of infighting, and this isn't actually constructive to our business. We want to talk about collaboration and teamwork, and that's basically what BIM is about. It's about the culture of how to work together, and basically we've all got to adapt to survive in the Darwinian sense. I'm a keen cyclist, so I think we should all adapt to become cyclists, but again, I'll let you decide which part of the industry is which, whether it's the aim at the beginning or wherever we are at this stage. Typical in other industries and actually rethinking of what we want to do and how we reinvent ourselves. I think it's Henry Ford did a famous quote. It's if I'd asked the people what they wanted, they'd said a faster horse, but he invented the car. And so I think it's a case of thinking how we do it, what we do, and I think his demonstration of why collaboration, working together, what we need to do, it can go horribly wrong. There are risks, but not as many as people think, and I think we need to take this out of the business. Working through the process, there are good, bad and ugly, but I think there are gains to be made by all, and lean construction, a term you may have heard, it's about working together, ideally in one space, co-locating, and I actually think there's gains to be made, as Homer Simpson would say. Google talk about the Internet of Things, knowledge is king, and the idea of that working together and linking together and communication. We no longer have to be in the office to be working, and you can communicate anywhere, wherever you are, and the technology is there. So in a sense, change is inevitable. You don't need to wear the t-shirt to go there. No, we just need to embrace it, not asking you to cross-dress. But it's a case of, it's not about liking it, loving it or hating it, it's definitely good for you. So why BIM? It's about success of the whole team, working together, efficiency, productivity, growth. Bottom line, you improve your margins. We've shown at BAM, and I think a lot of it the industry who's taken on board can see those margins gained. And again, too many words, but I think basically over traditional CAD, which some teams are still working, MEP in the area, services side, is still struggling with BIM, but BIM three-dimensional working is seen as gains. It is about information modelling, it's the data collection which we're not using to its maximum at the moment, and how we use that into the operations side. I won't steal Roy's thunder, but I'll come on to talk about that in a bit more detail. So it's a case of pulling that data from all the different disciplines, all through the whole process, into one source, prepared to use to maximise efficiency during the construction of the project and design and construction, but actually particularly in the occupation of the building, and that's where the maximum cost of the building is. £10,000 saving on capital costs can actually save £1 million actually when you're actually buildings in operation. So it's about culture, about how we work together, and it's got to be in your DNA. And we need to work at it to become a little bit fitter as we go through. And there are first steps that actually do have a few problems, but apologies for all the contractors in the room, but BAM is here to help. We don't wear fancy dress though. Key things, what we say, is about minimising, BIM is about minimising risk, optimising solutions and the way the process can go, and bottom line is maximising margins for the whole team. I'll put 7 BIM benefits for clients, and these are the key ones that we'll pick up on. First one I call ICT. It's not technology, it's about inclusivity, collaboration and transparency. As I say, it's about the information modelling and about how all the pieces of data throughout the whole process that we design come together as one whole. It's about the culture of how we do that. It's about collaboration together. It's not about fighting. And basically we're saying actually we can build bridges. We work together as a whole team, designers, contractors, client, FM providers, users, tenants, use that information we've got. There's a lot of things we can do. It's gone very yellow. Traditionally, small BIM, little BIM, as people in that term may have heard, design and build, and there is a radical thought ahead. Is looking at it's a big BIM. It's about bringing the whole wider sphere of design development through the project. And I emphasise integrated project delivery. IPD is a term you may have heard. It's used in the States. It hasn't been used in the UK much. But the sense is bringing the whole team on day one. In other words, the contractor should be on when the consultants are brought on board on day one. And basically, look at a rewards-based system for the whole team of how the benefits have been to be taken through. Again, maximising margins. And very white cat on a white background, but yes, we can all celebrate that. Second benefit is about understanding. If we use an analogy of a bike, and basically the brief that we get from a lot of our clients, this is a typical, it does what it says, it rides, actually it folds, you can put it on a train, and you've got some extra storage. Inevitably, this is what the client's really thinking he's going to get from his brief. So communication, how we do it. I say oftentimes, perhaps this is what was asked for. Actually, if a brief could come out, this could come out something like this, not one of our projects. As I say, we've been using BIM for a long time, and what we can do is using the BIM model, using Revit, you can actually, with a little tweaking, you can produce the image on the left without much work. There's a finished building on the right, and this is that feasibility conceptual stage. That sort of image you can produce. You can imagine the advantages to a client, can actually see the building, can understand it, and then can make decisions on the brief early on, and then as you stage changes later in the process. Again, this is an image done from the Revit model. It's not a finished building, but just to prove that there's how the model was built up. So you can actually virtually see the building. It is in 3D, which means this is the King's Cross basement. It's actually under construction on site at the moment. It's not a finished building. It's the Revit model. You can see the coordination of that. You can walk around that. You can walk the client around the whole of the basement area which is being built. You can see what he's getting, and you can make decisions there and then and make sure there's no issues. Point with the three-dimensional model, if you're efficient, and after about four or five designs going through the process, you're very efficient. This is a 2-week study we did up in Leeds, and then we produced costs from the model, produced actually enough detail to actually build it, and actually for planning in 2 weeks, because we have built up a library of information. You can question the design. I've only been at BAM 3 months, so it's not one of my designs, so I'm an architect. It's not an apology. And again, stakeholder buy-in, what we've found is, as in the previous practice of capital assignments, this is there by actually English Heritage buy-in very early on. Planners can buy in early on because they can see what they're going to get. And they can say, yes, we understand that. We have confidence in your team. Go ahead. There's no hiccups along the way. And lots of the type of information could be stills or could be walked through, so you could very quickly understand what's going on. So I say quick sign-offs, and obviously what we're looking at is you using tablet information. And I'm sure some of you are already using this technology with clients, that they can just have a tablet and they can see the whole model, can see the whole scheme, walk around the building, and they can see what exactly is happening at the time going on. A brief, and I don't want to take too much again thunder from Roy. Particularly what we have an FM division, and what we do is we bring our FM guys in, whether they're on board or not. And it's not one of our buildings, but a simple thing like a doorstop. It brought at home the other day. Our FM guy said, actually, if your design is putting the wrong doorstop, £5. So, actually, if that doorstop's wrong, it bashes a hole in the plasterboard, bashes a hole in the door, it needs to be £10,000. How many doorstops do you have in your building? That unbelievable cost for something simple as making the wrong mistake. It's interesting, the Loos downstairs, they made the same mistake on the door, backs of the doors. They're falling off, they're breaking, they've damaged that. So simple things like a doorstop, you think, and if that's a small element, what's the bigger element of environmental that we can learn from FM? And again, not the village people, but the contractors, again, all disciplines, all the subcontractors, if we can bring that information back in on early stage feasibilities, looking at options, that's why integrated project delivery is key, I think, it's moving ahead. We've got the knowledge in the industry that we all have, bring that in, advise the client, we get things done right, we get it done once, and less change orders along the way. Low-hanging fruit, as I say, I mentioned some of these are right. Lower tender prices, because the cost certainty, you know what you're getting, you start to actually get lower prices. Fees, tenders are at rock bottom, clients have got no money. How can we improve things? Well, it's the process, and the BIM process can actually help us all along that. It's about de-risking and about certainty. And occupation dates, I mean, schools, public sector, how many times have, you've got to hit a date because these children have got to be in that school. This BIM assists us getting that way, and you can actually very clear, transparent way of knowing where you are on a project along the way. Asset project delivery, there's a lorry with, looks like a load of rubbish, but it could well be a load of O&M files that we all produce paper, and actually they come on a lorry, you put them in a room, and they're never looked at again. Part of the BIM process is putting that digitally so it can be used and readily available. The two old school ways of working at is basically the client gets involved at the beginning, phases off, and then as the operation gets much more involved. Contractor comes in, builds the building, off he goes, throws the keys to the client, and runs off. Soft landings will come on, talked about it later. Then again, FM doesn't get involved at all until the last minute and doesn't got a clue what's going on in that building. But yeah, the maximum cost, where the cost has been done, is due to the operation of the building. So it's complex, and then the information is just not knowing what's going on. So the ideal way is to actually get the client involved, inclusive in the whole process, contractor involved, and actually you can say,